Guys, you clicked on the video, you already know what time it is. At the end of every year, many creators take to their various platforms and post what they believe is the current top 30 strongest characters in One Piece. And with the year wrapping up, I would say that we have just about every power feat that we would need this year in order to actually judge them. Y'all already know how it works. I'll be ranking characters based on where I think that they realistically should be right now, while of course providing explanations on why I put certain characters in certain places. So lock in, because this is going to be One Piece Top 30 2025. But first, if you're excited for the top 30, everybody knows that this is a big time of the year, y'all. Please, I need y'all to do something for me. Like the video, okay? That is incredibly important. Subscribe to the channel for more content just like this every week, and it's not just in One Piece either. And share it around with all your friends who love the series. You know we always say here, let's get it going. Oh, and make sure you subscribe to me and my boys over at CSY. Now, as always, before we begin, we have to lay out some ground rules. The first, and honestly most important, is that y'all, this is my list. This is of course subjective, and some bias is just gonna have to be there at some point, okay? That's just how these things work. I will try to be as fair as I can to everyone, but please y'all, for the love of Nika, if you're gonna disagree, do it respectfully. Second, it's based on all around combat level. It's not just the strength of one's devil fruit, their haki, their physical strength, it's all of those things and more put together. And the way I'm gonna equalize it is by having the conditions of victory be ring outs instead of killing or taking them out. Basically, can you knock them off of an island and occupy them? This is done once so that characters with regen won't be put unfairly high up if the goal is to kill them and you can't kill them because they keep regenerating, but also just to, level the playing field. And then we got some criteria for being included. First, they must be known to be alive based on the last that we saw of them. So obviously no confirmed dead characters, but also no characters whose fates are currently left in the air, like, I don't know, Kaido or Kid. And thank God I don't have to talk about useless mid. I mean, he wouldn't have made it on anyway, but still. They must have feats that can be argued for, or at least portrayal that heavily implies, if not outright confirms, the argument. Oh, also, I'm not going to be including the Seraphim because I genuinely don't know where to rank them. Starting us off real quick, I have a few honorable mentions that I want to run through. In order of ascending power, these people are going to be Crocodile, Doflamingo, Sabo, Killingham, and Summers. And I already know the Sabo fans are going to be upset, but listen y'all, based on what I see, he was not going to be able to make it. Reminder, running away is not a feat. And besides that, his best feat is what? Tying with an admiral who wasn't trying, which the other revolutionary commanders also did. Now here's the tricky thing about the Holy Knights. They got hacks galore. I do overall think that the Holy Knights as a faction are likely the strongest that we've seen, in that even their weaker members are likely Yonko Commander 2 if not Yonko Commander 1 level, with Shamrock basically being ballpark Yonko. As such, around here is where Summers and Killingham would fall, but I don't know, I just don't feel right putting them above the Yonko commanders that we actually know for sure, especially because we don't know whether Summers and Killingham are on the upper echelon, middle, or bottom of the Holy Knights. So when all is said and done, I think this is a good place for Summers. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, he's saved by regen a lot. His best feats are struggling against Nico Robin, and then getting either one shot or two shot, depending on how you look at it, by Scopper Gaban in his old decrepit out of prime age. Then Killingham is right below him because even though the MMAs that he creates are definitely hacks, if the Giants can easily deal with them, everybody can. On top of that, it seems to me that after Shamrock left, Summers was the next authority of the Holy Knights present at Albath, which at least puts him above the other two. With that said, you'll notice that Gunko was not in the honorable mentions. There's a reason for that, and in fact that will be explained right now as it's time to actually get into the top 30. Also, I'll be going in groups of 5 and explaining along the way just because it's easier to talk about it, it's a more digestible size. So with that said, at number 30, Trafalgar Law. Number 29, Katakuri. 28, King. 27 is Gunko, and 26, Marco the Phoenix. Now Law is barely just getting there, but I think he still deserves his place. I mean, fighting Blackbeard, who is supposedly Emperor level, and 3 of his commanders essentially by himself, is still impressive to me. At least he definitely did much better than anyone was expecting of him in that situation. He also did about 30% of the damage to Big Mom on Wano, because of course we know that Kid did about 10%, and then the random TNT that just happened to be there did the remaining 60. Now for Katakuri and King, I always do say that King is a bit stronger in my eyes, but I always have them in successive places of each other because I don't think it's that much of a difference. Also, Katakuri, while yes possessing Conqueror's Haki, does not have the advanced application. And on top of that, King does do more output damage. Now Gunko is really tricky to rank on account of the fact that there is her as herself and then her as a vessel of Imu. Of course, it doesn't seem fair to rank her highly because of her showing of being possessed by Imu, because that's just crazy. But even her showings of what she did on her own before that was honestly very impressive. Easily the most efficient member of the Holy Knights that we've seen so far. Beat Loki to pieces, which despite the fact of him being tied up was still a feat because we know of how insane his durability is. Her arrow devil fruit is cracked. Oh, and did I mention that she soloed half of a Yonko's crew? Say what you want about the strength of the Straw Hats, because I know a lot of people are about to start being like, oh yeah, but look at who was involved in the fight, Usopp, Nami. At the end of the day, it was a 4v1, of which her opposition included Nami with Zeus, which is a Yonko caliber attack, and Jinbei. And it's not even like it was hard for her, like she literally did not break a sweat. Plus getting the better of Gaban, who thought that he wouldn't have enough time to actually deal with her and beat her before she could get the upper hand on him through his son. With that said, fending off Big Mom and then fighting King and Queen at the same time is still more impressive to me, which is why Marco is 26. I maintain that Marco is going to remain the strongest of the kind of base Yonko Commander ones that we see. Now we got the next batch, which remains largely unchanged position-wise from last year. So at 25, I have Sanji, 24, Yamato, 23 is Zoro, 22, Green Bull, and 21, Jupiter. Now Sanji at 25 is consistent with what I said last year, where I said that with his exoskeleton plus Ifrit Janbei, I think he can handle Marco pretty well, and probably everyone below him too. And it helps that he has the same feat as him of fighting King and Queen off at the same time, and this was pre-exoskeleton. Now I always said that there is about a Yamato's level of difference between Zoro and Sanji, and I do think that Yamato deserves to be around right here. I mean, she's relative to Kaido, obviously weaker, we all know that, but still, being able to go blow for blow with Kaido is not nothing. And then on top of that, it's that advanced conqueror's haki, because we all know that that is an ability that clearly puts people above the rest in the One Piece world. Not gonna lie, with the way that Gaban teased Sanji having conqueror's haki, Zoro fans, don't play, we may catch up. But speaking of your GOAT, he is slightly above Yonko Commander 1 tier by now, scarring Kaido, using an imperfected version of Advanced Conqueror's Haki, which we know he can't control. Gaban literally said it earlier this year. Clashing with Nesjiro, who is much higher up, and of course the fact that Mihawk is his goal, so he's definitely aiming above just Yonko Commander 1. If he can perfect his use of Advanced Conqueror's Haki and or bringing out Ashura at will, we're looking at a Zoro approaching or even on Admiral level. Now Green Bull is the weakest of the Admirals, but we still have to give him his props. Off-screen Weevil, and basically off-screen King and Queen at the same time, which is vastly better than both Sanji and Marco. Could you make the whole argument of, oh, they were injured because they were still recovering from their fights on Onigashima? Yeah, but the fact of the matter is the way that it's portrayed, it seems like he clearly didn't have any problems whatsoever. Mind you, he's strong enough to break through Lunarian defenses with just his tree roots, which is important because of how durable King is and what it took Zoro to take him down. He fought in a 9v1 where he proved that Pokemon types are fake when he countered a blast of fire, which should be his main weakness. So yeah, a lot of people, including me, trash on him because of how Shanks embarrassed him. But let's not forget the work that he was putting in. Similarly, after Saturn, who was honestly just a bum, Jupiter seems to be by far the most useless Gorosei. Didn't really do much of anything on Ega that set him apart, as all his feats were done better by another member who's higher up, like him fighting the Iron Giant versus what Warcury did. Plus, I fall in line with the planet proximity theory, which states that the closer a Gorosei's planet equivalent is to the sun, the stronger they are. And besides Saturn, he is the farthest. Now in the next batch, we're getting to the mid-admiral tier, which somewhere in there also includes the old men tier. So I got Fujitora at 20, Kizaru at 19, Ben Beckman at 18, Sengoku at 17, and the new entry, Scopper Gaban at 16. Now we've been known Fujitora is strong, plus he has a Saijo Wazamono great sword. He also fought against his fellow Admiral Green Bull and seemingly won? Based on what we saw of him versus Luffy, Kizaru was definitely the strongest Admiral not named Akainu or Kuzan. Plus his fruit is just stupid strong and versatile. Now I always put Ben Beckman one spot above Kizaru just because of the interaction at Marineford, remembering that Kizaru had no problem fighting Marco and even Whitebeard himself. Plus the statements about him being the moon to Shanks' son, it has to mean something. Now Sengoku is old, but props still need to be given, because he was flagged by Roger himself to be one of the 2 men in the Marines to bring to him if they want to bring him in. And the other was Garp. He's part of the old man tier, so we know he kind of just has to be around here. Plus the Buddha mythical zone is not nothing to just laugh at. Now the new addition to the list is Gaban, who showed off his power this year, and can I say, he has a lot of feats. Right out the gate, possessing conquerors and advanced conquerors, and also at the same time suggesting something interesting for Sanji, one-shotting Summers and damn near stopping his regeneration. Mind you, he is old and out of his prime. Easily one-shotting Killingham's MMAs. Others claim him to be one of, if not the strongest warrior on Elbaf, despite him saying that he's incredibly rusty. Destroyed a decent chunk of a castle, which, might I remind you, was scaled and made for giants, and threatened Luffy and Zoro in a tag team to the extent that they felt the need to go into Gear 5 and King of Hell simultaneously. I mean, he was literally stated to be the left hand of the Pirate King in the same way that Rayleigh was the right. So of course, just like Zoro and Sanji, the two of them can't be that far apart. But just for what he showed us this year, I almost want to put him above Rayleigh, cause damn. But speaking of Rayleigh, in our next batch I got Rayleigh at number 15. 14 is Morj, 13 is Kuzan, 12 is Akainu, and 11 is Nosjuro. Now I used to have Rayleigh only one below Blackbeard on account of their encounter at Amazon Lily, where Blackbeard was literally so threatened by out of prime Rayleigh that he didn't even bother the thought of fighting it. But I did move Blackbeard up a bit, which I will explain when we get to it. But Rayleigh of course is relative to Gaban. Plus of course in his prime he was also one-shotting God's Knights. Now Morj was a decently powerful and useful Gorosei from what we saw. He's kind of middling. Plus you got the fact that his haki was so overpowering that Jinbei, tangentially feeling it, got startled to his core, who might I remind you is a New World veteran who has been in the presence of Yonko like Big Mom and Kaido before. Now Aokiji at 13, he practically soloed Blackbeard's entire crew without even trying when he froze them, relative to Akainu, and going blow for blow with Garp. And while Garp is of course still stronger than him, that is impressive. Then I have Akainu right above him at 12. And listen y'all, unless you think that Akainu got some sort of crazy power up during the time skip, of which only Advanced Conqueror's Haki would be enough to boost him that high, he and Kuzan are literally as close to equal as people can be. They fought equally for 10 days and nights, with Akainu just barely edging him out. And then for Nosjuro, he is the top 2 most impressive Gorosei alongside Warcury on Egghead. Speed blitzing 50 Pacifista is a crazy feat. And so is cutting the Labostratum in half. Listen, all I'm gonna say is, it's better than anything Mihawk has done. Also, his sword is just the Shodai Kitetsu. Now starting us off in the top 10, we have Warcury at 10, Blackbeard at 9, our very own Monkey D. Luffy at 8, his grandfather Garp at 7, and Loki jumping high above where he was last year at 6. Warcury is the most impressive Gorosei, and it's not really that close besides a bit of an argument for Nosjuro. Easily took on and destroyed the Iron G, and he has the second strongest outburst of conquerors that we've seen in the series to date after Joy Boy. Now I have Blackbeard at 9, and I'm not gonna lie y'all, that is shocking for me. And I don't have an agenda against him, but from the portrayals that we've seen of him, it's embarrassing to say the least. Threatened by old, decrepit, out of prime Rayleigh, huffing and puffing against Law, who you as an emperor should be clear surpassed, while having 3 of his strongest commanders with him, and jumping him in what was essentially a 4v1. And Aokiji had no problems with fighting him during the time skip, after having frozen instantaneously his entire crew, to the extent that Blackbeard did not want to fight him and talk no jutsu him instead. Now the bias in me is saying that I don't even believe that Blackbeard can be Warcury or Nosjuro or Akainu or Aokiji. The only, and I mean only, reason that Blackbeard is this high is because this year we found out that Rox D. Zebek is in fact his father. Because here's the thing, families in One Piece are incredibly telling. Time and time again, we've seen that family members who are in different generations will all be relatively around each other strength-wise and potential-wise. Just look at the Monkey D's, Roger and Ace, Kaido and Yamato, the Figurelands, and Rox is easily top 5 strongest in history. So Rox being Blackbeard's dad implies to me that we can at least expect him to be stronger than what his feats are portraying to us. And I have always also said, I do believe that end of series, Blackbeard will be top 5. But I just think he ain't there yet, we need to see it. Now Luffy is always hard to rank, but I think that we have to take into account the fact that Gear 5 has a time limit and this is where he is. If Gear 5 didn't have a time limit, then Luffy would already have shown us that he's easily top 5. He already no-diffed 2 Admiral or higher level opponents at the same time. And I had Luffy as high as 3 last year coming off the back of what we saw him do against Kizaru and Saturn. But I think it was good that I had time to think about it and reflect. And yeah, the fact that he does have that time limit, plus the fact that his haki is still in training and his Conqueror's haki in particular is not at its strongest level yet, kinda equalize it to be around here. In fact, I think that Luffy is quickly approaching Garp's level, but he needs his haki to boost him to that next step. Because Garp is a monster. Of course, we saw how devastating a galaxy impact was when he was out of his prime, but of course there's the fact that he was fighting and beating back Aokiji, while also fighting the rest of Blackbeard's commanders, while also having to protect all of the other members of Sword who were trying to get away, all while pushing 80 years old. But then we go back and see him in his prime, and nah, Garp Valley was different. I mean, we definitely get solid confirmation that he was half of the reason why Domi Reversied Rox was defeated. Reminder, Rox at that point in time was easily the strongest person not named Imu, and then he got buffed even higher by the demonification of Domi Reversi. So Garp doing half of the work to put him down, that's a feat. And then we also see him having 3 former emperors running for their lives. Were they in their primes on God Valley? No. But were they still demonstrably strong? Yes. Now Loki's at 6, y'all, and guys, Loki has by far the best feats in the series. Already there's what we learned of him last year, that by far he's the strongest giant in the world. It took Shanks to beat him and bring him back to Elbaf, and it took every giant warrior that they had to even just hope to tie him down. But on top of that, he survived a who knows how many hundreds of meters fall as a literally moments old baby, as well as killing a giant bear and climbing back up Elbaf's giant tree again as a literal baby. Plus, while he was definitely hurt from these, the fact that he was able to tank full-on attacks from Rox as a child, who we know was not holding back, because even Whitebeard was like, yo, why are you just savagely attacking kids like this? Chill, bruh. And what I'm waiting to see personally is Loki versus Domi Reversied Herald, because if he was truly fighting with him, then there's no doubt in my mind that Loki's up here. Mind you, base Herald was relative to Rox, so Loki fighting Domi Reversied Herald by himself basically, which would be more impressive than what Roger and Garp did, because they had help. And finally, we got the top 5, which, not gonna lie, is mostly the figurelins. But I got Mihawk at number 5, Shamrock at 4, 3 is Garling, 2 is Shanks, and of course 1 is Imu. Mihawk at 5, no one should be complaining, right? I mean, he's relative to Shanks, and I don't want to rehash too much of my own personal feelings on the whole Shanks versus Mihawk debate, but essentially, despite the fact that Mihawk is the world's strongest swordsman, Shanks is implied to be able to do things that don't have to do with swordsmanship, in which case he can still be stronger than Mihawk in the same way that Imu is stronger than Mihawk. And it hasn't been confirmed yet, but of course it makes 0 sense if Mihawk didn't have Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Opinions, of course, are subject to change based off the information we get, but until we get more, this is where I'll have Mihawk. So my argument for Shanks above him makes sense, but why are Shamrock and Garland? Well, Fraudhawk exists, and to be fair, I'm not just joking on him in an agenda way, but there is a genuine notion that the fact that Garling and Shamrock being celestial dragons may be removed from what people talk about when they say world's strongest swordsman, which I'm not gonna lie, makes sense, because think about it. Where would the people of the One Piece world even have the context for knowing who Garling and Shamrock are? Much less that they're strong fighters, and even much less that they are strong fighters who are primarily swordsmen. Now, I already made a video as to why Shamrock is this high up, which you should definitely watch after this one. But to recap the main points, as I explained with Blackbeard, family ties are incredibly important, so the fact that his brother and dad are in the top 3 means that he's not going to be that far behind. Of course, there's narrative importance as well, where I believe that he was specifically created with the goal in mind of being a Shanks fight, because that just makes the most sense. In which case, he's going to have to be relative to Shanks in order for it to be a, good fight where we can actually see what they can both do. I mean, Garling did say in a recent chapter that Shanks joining the Holy Knights would make him an asset on par as Shamrock, meaning that we can essentially ballpark them to be around the same. He's got his Cerberus sword, which again, almost killing Loki is a feat. Likely an Advanced Conqueror's Haki user because it's in his family. Regeneration from Imu and the commander of the Holy Knights, yeah, he can be right here. Now, Garling is one of God Valley's primary fighters, though of course we do have to dock a bit off that now that we know that he was low-key a bum at God Valley and got off-screen twice by the same person, heavily implied to be the dude who scarred Whitebeard, though again, why God Valley doesn't show us this is shocking. Used to be the supreme commander of the Holy Knights, and now is likely the strongest Gorosei, which means that he gets regen plus a new demonic transformation with crazy powers. And then 2 is Shanks, and I mean, do I need to explain it? It's Shanks. The reasons for him being here are basically explained in the Mihawk section. Plus, his haki is actively compared to Joy Boys, which forced the Gorosei out of their transformations, sent them packing back to the Holy Land, and gave Imu PTSD from hundreds of thousands of miles away. But then, of course, Imu is top 1. Is there anything more I need to say? Shadow ruler of the entire world, heavily portrayed as the final villain. And on top of all the other crazy reasons that I already gave last year, we saw him take head-on 6 attacks from the strongest people in the world at the same time and literally be unfazed. Plus, as of right now, where we don't know what the limit of Domi Reversi is, he can ostensibly domi reverse whoever he wants. Like, we know there are gonna be conditions, but still. Wait y'all, I almost forgot about Dragon. I mean, I don't really like ranking Dragon because we literally have seen nothing out of him, but if you did want me to rank him, consider him either second after Emu or third after Emu and Shanks. So there you have it, guys. That is my current top 30. I'm probably gonna have it flashing somewhere on the screen so that you can read it, but I wanna know what y'all's lists look like and how you compare it to mine. Is there anybody not on the list who you expect it to be, or anyone who's on my list that you don't think should be? Let me know all that and more in the comments below. Now that is the end of the video, y'all, but before we go, like it, subscribe, and share it around with all your friends who love the series, or anime and manga in general. That's gonna be all for me. I'll catch y'all on the next one, and always remember, one piece, one life. Now if you'll excuse me, I gotta go because this video is mad long and I'm not looking forward to editing it.